code? Well, Dad codes. He's cool. I want to be like Dad.
Who wrote this?
We had some input. I want to learn to code because it is an easy way to solve problems such as working out prime numbers.
So, I have done a little bit of coding. I had a science project to do on the water cycle. Rather than a poster, I decided to make a website with help from Dad. We wrote a React app. Each information slide was identified in an array of data, a bit like this. The const data is an array, kind of a list of things. The list of things is the information we want to show. The first thing in the list is an empty object, as we will just show the background. Then we show the evaporation component. Then a title and content will appear. Let's take a look at the live demo. So when I click, the evaporation component should appear, but it didn't. And then the evaporation title and contents appears. And if I go a bit further, which it didn't, there should be clouds racing across the screen. Okay. It didn't work. Oh, there we go. And then this is my favourite one, clouds racing across the screen. Oh, shoot.
You have to go on the other screen.
I've lost the mouse.
It's over there.
Oh, there we go.
Wow, that was great, Tilda. I haven't really got to do much on web pages, but I also have been doing some JavaScript. I also started to learn about arrays. Here is an array of phrases. And at the bottom, I'm using math.random to generate a random number. The random number is then used to get an index into the statements array, and finally, it is printed to the screen with console.log. I then moved on to writing a loop. Here is a loop inside a loop that prints out the timetables. After that, with help from Dad, I have been seeing how to find prime numbers, and most recently, have been learning about function and variables and drawing stuff. Here I have a saw function which takes in size. I have two loops that draw out the sawtooth pattern. That's on the left. As you can see, on the right-hand side, sorry. I have written various other functions to draw out square patterns as well.
At Rails Camp, I want to spend some time with Dad, probably do some coding, socialise, but most importantly, play werewolf.
I want to go to Rails Camp to start learning some Rails. I started another project with Dad to do some fitness tracking using Rails. I'm hoping at Rails Camp I could continue building that with Dad. Two other aims are see someone get drunk and play werewolf and stay up as long as possible.
We hope you have enjoyed our presentation today. And if I get the ticket, I hope to see you at Rails Camp. You can follow me on GitHub as Tamadillo.
Likewise, hope to see you at Rails Camp. GitHub, I am Squiggler. Dad's turn.
Testing, 1, 2. Thank you, kids. That was awesome. Well done. Oh, God. No. Just pop it in there. All right. Cool. This is going to be exciting. Like really exciting. Not in a fun way. So what this talk is not about is about me writing some awesome software. There's not going to be an awesome demo of WebSockets, as I'd hoped, nor am I going to teach you the secret sauce of teaching kids how to program. This won't be a Regulation Lightning talk, and this won't be a talk about success. But this will be about 10 minutes, I hope. It will be about a dream, it will be about some tech, and maybe a learning or two of my own. So, I love WebSockets. This is the dream, right? I love WebSockets. They are really, really, really cool. In fact, I've gone to 2 conference talks about WebSockets. One had no demo of WebSockets. The other one did have a demo of WebSockets where everyone's phone was going to connect to the server and they were going to play a symphony of music through everyone's phone, and nothing happened. It just didn't work, right? So it's cool. Like, I love that technology. The kids told me 3 months ago they want to go to Rails Camp, and I thought, well, of course you can come to Rails Camp, but you got to do some coding and you need a goal. So I said, right, how about you do a talk in October about what you've learned, you know, the 30 minutes a day we're going to do of coding and you're going to be awesome. Well, they did do some coding, but yes, that was kind of still part of the dream. The dream then was that, well, hang on a second, if they're going to do a talk and I'm going to do something about WebSockets, why don't we have a 3-person spectacular where I will teach the kids how to code, we can all do a talk, and hey, why not actually do the talk using slideshow software that I will write in those 3 months? And then not only that, but I want some audience participation. Why don't I write an interactive slideshow where the audience can rate how well Felix and Matilda are doing to get that one Rails Camp ticket, a bit like the worm, right? So you have the debates and you've got this worm and you guys could all be voting, oh yeah, up for Felix, down for Tilda, up for Tilda, and we could watch that come across. That would be awesome. And then my talk would come after that, and it would be about how I built this awesome software. And not only that, but I'd want audience participation. You guys could control the slides. I don't know if anyone's seen Netflix Bandersnatch or Choose Your Own Adventure. As I finished my slide, you could choose what slide would be next. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? And all with WebSockets, right? And then throw in some new tech. I decided to learn a bit of Rails and GraphQL, React and Apollo. It's all pretty cool. Like, I love that technology. And then set a deadline of 30th of October, which happens to be my birthday. And then also deal with the rest of life, right? Every morning I take my dog for a 1-hour run, and then I wash dishes and clothe and prepare lunches and all the rest of it. Just giving me time, well, sometimes, just giving me time to think how much bigger this dream could be without actually having any time to put into that, right? I was literally going to fly to the moon. This was going to be awesome. So I got started. First I wrote a spike, right? Bit of spike code, like, hey, is this even going to work? Yep, it was going to work. And then clearly, if you've seen any of my talks, I was going to write the rest of it test-driven. I'd have a React front end and I'd test that. And then I'd go down to the layer of the API in GraphQL and I'd test that. And then I'd go to the underlying model and I'll test that. And then, whoa, scrap that. Layered testing, like it's going to take so long to write any test through all those layers. But then I came up with a 10 times speed improvement. Why not just scrap all of those other tests? This dream of mine was getting so big, I think I just need to test the model, right down the bottom, the Rails model, the things that are in the database. That was my bright idea. So I thought, cool, let's go. Not very bright, excellent, good. It's good. So let's see this idea, right? So you guys are all going to hit, I'm going to be here on the 30th of October, and you're all going to hit this bit.ly link. Okay, and then the bit.ly link will go to like a viewing model because I'm going to be doing a viewing of my presentation. And you guys are going to log in as users, right? So a user would connect to a particular viewing through as a viewer. So there would be a number of viewers on my viewing. And then I'd need to run a presentation, right? But not 1, 2, because the kids' presentation and my presentation. So a single viewing would have 2 presentations. And a presentation is like a slideshow, so a slideshow is made up of many slides. And, well, I then want this idea of this interactivity, so I want this quiz thing, and maybe like the kids' quiz would be on the slideshow because it would be across all of their slides, whereas mine would be across a slide, so it would be like each slide would be choose your own adventure. So I'd have this quiz, and then the quiz would have to have quiz options, and I'd have to link the quiz to either the slideshow or the slides, and then you'd have to vote to find out what happens next. And then the vote, well, is that on the quiz? Probably not, because it's probably somehow related to presentation. And yeah, all those models worked. But at that point in time, it got so complicated that I thought, well, if that took me 5 hours to write, it's going to clearly take me like 10 times longer to write all the front end and everything else. So I thought, as you see in those balloons, like there's those little bits of plastic kind of falling down. I thought I'd grab one of those and present that to you today. So let's have a look what we've got. So in particular, I was kind of interested in this bit here, this quiz. That could be a slideshow or a slide. So let's just bring that in. So we have a slideshow is made up of many slides, and a quiz is made up of any quiz shows. So clearly a slideshow I'm showing you here, this one's made up of 56 slides in particular order, so a one-to-many relationship. And a quiz is made up of many quiz options. So in my choose your own adventure, you'd have 2 options at the bottom of this slide. Do you want Michael to get off stage, or do you want Michael to do another slide, right? And for the kids, it would be like, do you want to vote for Matilda, or do you want to vote for Felix to get the Rails Camp ticket? So then what could we do? Well, if I look at those lines naively, I might go, hey, I can put a quiz ID on the slideshow and slides. But then that works the wrong way, right? Because then I have a slideshow that belongs to a quiz, and I want it the other way around. And I have slides that belong to a quiz, and I don't want that because I don't want one quiz, I want many quizzes. So scrap that. On the quiz, I could do this. I could have a slideshow ID to say, right, the quiz could be part of the slideshow, or the quiz could be part of a slide. But that kind of doesn't scale, right? Because if I had a quiz for some other reason, then I'd have to have another ID. But then, obviously, for some of you that know Rails and some of you that don't, there is this idea of, well, why don't I have a quizable ID and a quizable type? So this is a polymorphic association. So this says the quiz could be part of any model that I choose for it to be part of. I'll have an ID and I'll say what the type is. So how do you create a polymorphic association? Well, first let's have a look at some standard Rails migration. So I have a Rails generate migration, create a slideshow, and I'm saying a slideshow just as a title. It's pretty simple. I get this migration written out to say create a table, slideshows, and a title, and that's like, cool, I've got a slideshow, that's all I need. I then need lots of slides. So the slides have to belong to the slideshow. So Rails G, or generate migration, and on a slide, I'm gonna have a title and some content, and I have this thing references slideshow. So a slide belongs to a slideshow, and this migration gets generated where I have a title, content, and a slideshow, and it's like a foreign key. Cool, so I can have a slideshow can have many slides. And then I run that, and I get this error. And this error is a little bit confusing, right? Because it's kind of like, hey, the key column slideshow ID, cool, yeah, I've got a slideshow ID in there. And ID are incompatible, big int, and UUID. And for those who know what that means, they know what that means. For those that don't, there's some incompatibility. Let's have a quick look at that. And the incompatibility is I've decided to use something really cool, UUIDs, right? So when I created my table of slides, I have UUIDs, and when I created my table of slideshows, I also have UUIDs. Unique universal identifiers, yeah, something like that. And what was happening was my slideshow didn't know that it was meant to be a UUID, so what was happening, what I needed to do was actually say this is of type UUID. Cool? Not so cool. So let's step back. So what is this UUID? So it's a unique universal identifier. And the idea is that I have this, I don't know how many bits thing. What is it? 2 to the 16, 128. There you go. Thank you. And the chance of a collision in this is the chance of a collision is if you were generating 1 billion UUIDs per second for about 85 years and created a file with all of those UUIDs at 16 bytes per UUID, that would be 45 exabytes, many times larger than the largest database currently in existence, which are only in the hundreds of petabytes. So the idea is that here is an identifier you could create like that, and it's not going to collide. So you don't have to worry about any collisions. You don't have to, you could create a user in two different places and assume that those IDs would be unique. You could also use these IDs across all of your tables, and if you have an error with one of those IDs, you could probably just find the record associated with that. And I suppose why you might want to use them as well is security by obscurity, right? Imagine you're there in your, well, imagine Michael's in one of his previous jobs looking at user 1234, and that happens to be his salary and his goals and expectations and plan with his manager. And obviously with 1234 ID, it's pretty easy to guess what the previous or next ID is, like 1235 maybe. And oh, lo and behold, I then see somebody else's information. So clearly, what does Michael do then? I mean, somebody could potentially get every user ID from 1 to 10,000 and find out everyone's salary. That's why I don't work in places with HR departments anymore. Back to polymorphic associations, right? So I needed to do this type UUID because that's what it was. All cool. And then finally I need this quiz, right? So I need this quiz. Forget about quiz options for the moment. So I generate a third migration. I say Rails generate migration, create quiz, title string, quizable, references, polymorphic. And what this does is in here it says I have a table of quizzes, and each quiz has a title and a reference of quizzes polymorphic, which does the thing underneath that I talked about before, which we'll see in a second, which was that I have an ID to the slideshow or slide, and I have the type. So we'll say the slideshow or type or slide. And then in my models, I need to do something like this. I say, hey, I have a slideshow. Forget about the belongs to user. We didn't do that in this example. It has many slides. So I can do, if I have an instance of a slideshow, I can get each slide. Pretty cool. And it has many quizzes, right? So my slideshow could have a worm for the kids one, or maybe could have some other slide, like an overall rating, quiz. So if I ran a slideshow, the idea is I could have multiple quizzes. One maybe rate me as I'm going, one rate me at the end, one maybe rate me at the beginning, see how I go. A slide belongs to a slideshow, so I could say slide, get me my slideshow, and it also has many quizzes. So the idea is both of these are associated to a quiz, and a quiz belongs to quizable, so that for a particular quiz you can say, hey, what's the quizable thing? Oh, it's a slide. Or what's the quizable thing? It's a slideshow. And in the reverse you can say, slideshow, find me all the quizzes and display them. So I started using them in my tests. So I said, right, let's create a slideshow with a title. Let's create a slideshow. Let's put a slide on it. So slideshow.slides, and I'm going to put a slide.create title slide 1. So now slideshow has one slide. And then I'm going to say, right, let's create a quiz. So I do a quiz.create, quiz on slideshow. So that gets created on the slideshow, and I get the first slide of the slideshow, and I'll throw a quiz onto that. So all of a sudden I have that thing I wanted, where I have a quiz, and it can be either put on a slideshow or a slide. Pretty cool. And as I said, I was running this in a test. But as I did that, I had what was known as a flaky test. So anyone here hasn't heard of a flaky test? Right, cool. So a flaky test, or flaky anything, is when half the time it doesn't do what you expect it to do. Now, usually you get these when you're doing in the front end, where lots of things can be moving around. You can have things loading, unloading, network latency, etc. You never get it in this kind of code. So I was super excited, like, why was I getting this? So what was I getting? Every so often, when I did slideshow.quizzes, it said, I've got nothing. And clearly here, slideshow.quizzes, I've created a quiz, so what's going on? And every other time I got what I expected to say slideshow.quizzes, I got the quiz that I wanted. And this was happening about 40-60% of the time, right? 40% I was getting the right answer, and 60% I wasn't getting the right answer. So what does a good developer do? They throw out their test, right, and just keep moving. No, I didn't do that. I kind of started to kind of go, what's going on here? What's this 4 to 6 ratio? And then I brought back the friendly UID. I started having a look at UIDs and I said, well, the first character of a UID has a chance of being a number, 0 through 9, or a letter, A through F, 6 letters. And, well, depending what happens here, if I was Ruby and you changes into an integer, in this case, this would change it into the integer 0. In this case, it would change it into the integer 15. These would be all integers, but these would be all zeros as well. And what was happening was, when I was having a slideshow which had a particular ID, which was a UID because it's cool, right? Then I would have a quiz, and if that slideshow ID happened to start with not a number, my quizable ID was nothing like that ID. It was just an integer 0. And if it did start with a number, like 421,866, then 421,866 would go in there. So what was happening was everywhere I was using UIDs, but not in my quiz, because you have to watch what you're doing. And half the time it was pumping out the wrong number, and half the time it was pumping out the wrong number, but it happened to match. So on this quiz, if it said, hey, I have this ID, it would actually match that. When you're looking from the slide, you would find the quiz, right? You'd find the quiz from the slide. From the quiz, you actually probably wouldn't find the slide. So they're polymorphic associations, and as much as clever as all of this is for generators, I love Rails generators because they're really clever. They do all of this stuff. They don't do one thing, and that is tell you, 1, you stuffed up and you've got the wrong ID. 2, there's no way of adding the type UUID on the polymorphic association. So I said learnings. Okay, so what are the learnings? Keep it simple. I obviously overcomplicated everything for my last 3 months on this. Careful of anything you get passionate about. I was passionate about Rails generators, UUIDs, a complex model, this whole idea of this presentation of presentations, etc. Probably pair. Pair is a good thing to do. Bounce ideas of other people. In this case, I kind of didn't really have that much time and space to do too much pairing on that. And the last one's clearly demo early. So I'm here doing a talk because otherwise I wouldn't be demoing early. On the last 2 points though, 1, I am talking today for the 12th time this year. And I will be talking again in a couple of weeks' time on the 9th of November at DevFest Melbourne about pairing. So come and join me if you can. And I did say demo, so let's go. Let's see what happens. So bit.ly, Roro44, my age today. If everyone can get their device and go there, let's see what's going to happen. We have 3 people. Yes, your email will be publicly shown, but you can just make up an email because it doesn't really matter. And, and of course, we can now vote for the 2 tickets where they should go to. Yes, you can vote a number of times, any number of times. Did I lose the other ticket? Have we still only got 3 viewers, or was my session crapped out? No, you just make one up. You have to, or you brought my Heroku instance down, clearly.
Email or password.
Well, you have to have an email, so you can do mm@mm.mm and then have a password, but don't sign in, sign up. Come on, I want this to fall over. Oh, we got 4 people. 28 people voting for me, it's good. Tilda, you're winning.
Shall not use my LastPass password for this.
Is that LastPass with a capital L? All right. Clearly, well, some software works. That's great. Let's see if I can outbeat you. We've got what, 8 registrations? Come on. Oh, there we go. Now it's happening. Cool.
Loading. So
Yeah.
it takes a while.
Wow, you know.
You know, performance testing is
No, I said demo early, right? This is the demo early. I was expecting this just to fall over. Like, clearly you can see I spent a lot of time on styling. Oh, am I the only one voting for myself? That's all right. Well, this is the reality test, right? I hope you enjoyed my talk. That's it. I will be at Rails Camp to maybe work on this, so I hope to see a lot of you there. It looks like I'm going to have to give both tickets to the kids. Kids, come on. Tilda.
Thank you so much.
Felix. Thank you. Any questions?
You can let them go unsupervised.
Sorry?
You can let them go by themselves.
They generally supervised.
No.
They supervise me. Actually, that's the inverse kind of thing, right? The more childish I am, the more adult they are.
Do we have any questions?
Can you scale your Heroku Dino count above 1? Because my curl commands were taking a really long time to run.
Well, I did go to one stat. Like, I'm paying $25 a month here, right? Come on. And I've got to buy 3 Rails Camp tickets. Gee.
A lamp, maybe?
Yeah, just post it on AWS. Easy.
Classic devs.
As we heard this morning or earlier today, Rails Camp has sold out. So how do you plan on resolving this dilemma?
He's friends with the organisers.
Nepotism.
If you're watching our two, you know.
Hey. What advice would you have for mums or dads out there looking to get their kids into programming?
That's partly what I was hoping to achieve. I have no idea. I really have no It's probably a little bit like parenting where you just get thrown in and you have no idea. Look, I think it's interesting as we've been very low-tech family. We don't have a TV. The kids don't actually have access to devices most of the time. And that's worked a lot in our favour because people like Ambrose is sitting here and watching attentively, and they play for hours together and do all sorts of other exciting things, which at this time in their age I think is a good thing. But I'm also kind of struggling to kind of get them interested. But they are interested now. So these two have actually written some code, and they come back to me and say, right, let's do this. But sorry, I don't have that secret answer.
Kind of same question for Matilda and Felix. What made you be interested and want to give it a go?
I've already told you.
That's cool.
He's cool. He goes.
How much did you pay?
One Rails Camp ticket.
You're worth more than that.
Let's hear it for the Milewski family. Yeah, it's only fair. All the Milewski family.
I don't know. I know, because you can't see over the top of it.
Yeah.
I can.
Eat your wheat bix.
All right.
The entry requirement for Rails Camp. Weekniks. Sing over the top of this. I don't know, maybe. That's an exciting evening, isn't it? Going to end up at the start of the slide presentation again. That's how it goes. Every time I say I'm going to get better at this, and every time I don't, I can be like the people posting. Go for it. If I can remember to get back to it.
Sorry, I was mumbling about the little pig in Toy Story because I'm about to
whip through the slideshow at even past the duck pics. Oh, cat, nice.
eel.
Oh, Bird of the Year. Yes, vote for your Bird of the Year, Australian Bird of the Year. Talk videos. If you'd like to see videos of the talks, you can find them at that URL.
If you have a talk, you can open an issue on the GitHub and we'll talk to you about when you want to do the talk and what sort of talk you want to do, and it will be exciting.
How long you want to talk for, all that sort of stuff. It's great. Or you can tweet at us. That works too, occasionally. We are on Twitter.
Yeah. If you want to see a talk, you can open an issue in the same place.
Don't tag anyone specific though. Just like put the idea out there and let people find it.
Although I think one person has been tagged specifically, so.
Yeah, right. Talk to them first if you're going to tag them specifically.
Oh, I was going to take this one out.
Oh, no. Why would you take that one out? That's my cat.
It's using the wrong keyboard.
This is a work from home day. The cat was pair programming.
That's my cat. I hear she's good at Scala.
Also, I was really excited about this bread I baked. Another thing I'm really excited about is RubyConf next year. The two MCs have been announced, Caitlin and Mel. Oh my lord, Caitlin and Mel. And as I said earlier, the early bird tickets are on sale till the end of this week, I think. But the regular tickets will still be on sale after that.
Is there anyone from that organising committee here tonight who wants to talk more about it? Because we don't know a massive amount about it. We're just excited. It's all right if there's not. Yeah?
Hey.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hi everyone, I signed up again to be Ruby Australia's treasurer for another couple of months. So I'm technically part of the organising committee, I pay all the bills. But it's going to be, Ruby Conference is going to be held at Melbourne Town Hall next year in February, as you can tell. Definitely not this February gone, too bad, so sad if you missed that. But it's Melbourne Town Hall, we're going to have an opening party, a closing party, lots of excellent speakers. Come along, it's a really good use of your company's learning and development budget. The end, bye.
Thanks, Ryan.
We've now come to the end of the evening at Zendesk, but if you wish to continue on talking, eating cheesecake, there'll be people going to Vapiano after this.
It's also really good weather for gelato if you'd like to come to Pita Pipo.
It's always good weather for gelato.
Especially good weather today.
And thank you for coming.
See you next time.